Welcome to Subject to Change, a sustainability podcast. We're here with Ben Holsinger of Gensler to talk about materials.
I met Ben last week in DC, which is where he works with Gensler. And we're at a meeting about material carbon impacts in Memphis. And we arrived here, a half an hour ago. Yeah. And the various rooms for the meeting aren't going to be ready until 3. So we thought we'd spend a half an hour with you.
Cool. I love this. Thank you.
Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. When you see the little microphone in the lower right, click on that to learn more. We're so glad you're here.
Well, this is good. So Ben's a little nervous, but I keep telling him he doesn't have to be.
It's my coffee jitters, actually. I just had iced coffee and it's hitting me. So
that's entirely different than being nervous. So Ben, what do you do for Gensler specifically?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take these out for now because I can hear myself talking.
Okay.
I am a sustainability specialist and I'm the global director of design resilience sustainability for our product development practice area. So Gensler designs everything from a brand and the logos on a credit card all the way through buildings to cities and urban planning, and everything, including products. So I work with manufacturing partners to make products that are more sustainable.
The level of detail is amazing.
I knew that Gensler was in architecture and design. I kind of assumed they got into some level of community or urban planning. I didn't realize that you got down into such small details. So that's interesting. How do you go about, so do you guys then get involved in the actual manufacturing process and kind of vetting the materials that go in and that are kind of included into the products that you design?
It's a great question. So we usually join a manufacturing partner from the design side. So we'll do research, development, and design. That's why it's product development, not product design. We have great designers. Our manufacturing partners have great designers. So it really is a collaborative effort. And we rely heavily on their expertise. Right. I'm not, and I always tell every manufacturer I work with, I'm not an expert in your industry and your manufacturing specifically. I'm here to learn from it. And then on our end, we'll do early stage life cycle assessment modeling to help inform design decisions on their material choices and help make that connection between embodied carbon and Gensler's goals and the manufacturing process.
So this is a great point because I think this is my opinion, but I think that any firm that is doing design and construction is going to start to get this involved in the materials realm. It might not be helping with the development of the material, but it will certainly be in the assessment of the material and vetting it toward the understanding of environmental and social governance goals.
The full life cycle assessment for products.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're seeing across the firm is, we're doing these embodied carbon assessments for projects, right, for the buildings that we design. And when products don't have, an EPD or a third-party verified life cycle assessment, project teams are going out there and saying, well, what is it made of? What's the industry average for this type of wood or that type of aluminum? And kind of doing a makeshift LCA real quick, because some of these systems are very large and contributing a lot to the story of embodied carbon for a project. And so we're definitely seeing a need for this. And it's very fascinating because there are software companies out there now that are trying to answer this and trying to get EPDs and life cycle assessments for products out on the market quicker, because that's a huge need that I see, especially from my manufacturing partners. They need something quick, right away, third-party verified, and the market isn't there. It's not ready for it yet, but we need it. And we see this, we've seen this for a while in things like concrete, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Each mix is going to need a different EPD, and it's so hard to get something to market.
Okay, I'm going to back up a little because some of the people who view this are involved directly in the building industry and some are not. So an EPD is an environmental product declaration. There was also a mention of LCA, which is life cycle analysis, life cycle accounting. There's a variety of LCA terms.
Yeah.
Comparing apples to horses.
Regarding embodied carbon, here's a question for you to follow up on that. Do you see the embodied carbon right now as kind of like order of magnitude understanding, or do you see us already understanding in really tight detail what each material is bringing to a project?
I think we're just starting to scratch that surface.
Okay.
You know, we've our designers are kind of reflectively asking vendors and manufacturers for an EPD. And then on our end, we're trying to dive deeper, right? With my expertise, we're trying to dive deeper into what that means. So, and the manufacturers are listening, right? And that's kind of the really exciting thing, right? We're asking and they're listening. And then I'm getting very, very involved with the conversations with them to help them understand why we're asking for it. So I think we're just starting to scratch the surface of really diving deep into EPDs and understanding what they mean and how that plays into the built environment. It's not enough just to ask for it and say, great, thanks, check that box. The next level is, let's dive deep into this. Let's start comparing this product with that product and then normalizing apples to apples. So we're not looking at right now, sometimes it's apples to horses.
I'm going to use that expression actually.
Large firms have a large voice.
Last week, Ben was in a panel discussion for, and I said Ben, but do you want to?
Oh,
Ben
Ben is fine.
Okay,
Ben is
right.
fine. Yeah.
So a panel discussion that happened. It was hosted by Material Bank in DC just after the Living Future conference, one of the days. And in that panel discussion, there was some discussion of how architecture firms need to really set their own firm standards as to what they feel is a tolerable level for toxins and for embodied carbon and for and durability. And there should be some kind of universal understanding. So the firm approaches a project in a sort of a unified and moving the needle way. Do you feel that like, where do you, if there were 100 firms, how many of those firms do you think are already on that track? And maybe that's unfair to ask.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. You know, certainly there are firms that are in the forefront of this and who have been asking for this for a long time. At an industry-wide level, we at Gensler realize, you know, we do have a large voice, and with our Gensler City Climate Challenge, our goal is to use that voice to help shape the industry. And so we've really reached out to our manufacturing partners, not just once we have products with, but players in the field, large and small, everybody, to use our voice to shift the industry. It's not about excluding somebody or saying you don't meet the requirement, but rather how can we help each other move forward, because we can't do it alone. We have to work together.
To go far, go together.
And it's new for everyone.
For everyone. Yeah.
And that's really one of the things that I've respected the most about your organization is the fact that, so me as a small business owner of one, soon to be two people, I don't have the bandwidth necessarily to do the level of research that you guys have, or even evoke the change that you guys have the capability to do because of the weight behind your name. So I've always deeply respected how you as an organization have been very communal with your information. I mean, you have research that you post, correct, on your website specifically?
We do, yeah. So we have the Gensler Research Institute, and a few years ago we developed a special arm of it specifically for resilience, and we also have another arm specifically for DE&I in the built environment. So we have these two kind of arms in our Gensler Research Institute that are wholly focused on those topics and publishing research about it all the time. And you know, we do that to you know, increase awareness, to share what we've learned across the industry. We shouldn't be learning this and, you know, keeping it locked up.
Well, and that's really key in sustainability, right? I think the industry, anyone with a sustainability mindset is more open to transparency and sharing and saying, I've learned this, you take the next step so that I can then take the next steps on top of that. And I think that's starting to emerge past just sustainability minded people.
Mhm.
I also think it's very interesting that sustainability is now changing to be beyond, I'm going to say merely, but merely isn't the right word, beyond the built entity, the bricks and mortar.
Let's learn a little bit about Memphis Green.
You mentioned DEI, right? So sustainability is about, it's always been about health. It's always been about energy, but now it's becoming about equity and inclusion, diversity, understanding of natural systems. Where Ben actually prompted me to look up what Memphis is doing on sustainability. And it's really interesting because the first thing I pulled up was a website about how they're focusing on waste. They have a restaurant program to actually uplift local restaurants. And what we heard in the lift over here was that the food culture in Memphis is astoundingly cool.
Yeah, we're
Mhm.
excited to dive into that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
I said, are there vegan ribs, vegan barbecue? And that got a little bit of I have no clue, but
I said, I'll take some veggies rolled in some barbecue sauce. It's okay.
But
There you
there's a whole
go.
program for taking those restaurants, not only taking the existing restaurants and helping them reduce food waste and become more sustainable in how they deliver the food, but in creating new restaurant opportunities through sustainability as an economic driver. And I mean, and then there's this other thing that I actually took a photo of it so I would remember the exact name. And I thought this was so cool. They have a thing called Green Print. It's a final plan of the Mid-South Regional Green Print and Sustainability Plan to connect green spaces throughout the city and encourage individuals to create green spaces that link with other green spaces.
Great.
So there's a whole network
That's
of
amazing.
connected greenery in this. Imagine how that would change any city.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Savannah probably already does it, but most cities don't have that kind of thought process, right? So
Right.
all different levels is my point.
Sustainability has unguilty pleasures.
So
And
Ben, did
all
you
different
know
levels.
that before coming to Memphis, or did you do like a quick
No,
deep dive
no.
and just, okay.
No, I literally said, we're going to be talking about sustainability in Memphis.
In Memphis, we should
We
probably
should
them.
we should learn something about sustainability in Memphis.
So over my
Yeah,
avocado
makes
toast
total
and
sense.
finally a cup of coffee.
Oh, did you not order coffee when they wouldn't use your refillable?
They Starbucks in the airport would not use my travel mug, and I said, well, then I don't want your coffee. So I was entirely uncaffeinated until about 20 minutes ago.
I don't know that I have that kind of willpower. I think I might have
I
just been
got
like,
up at
okay,
2
I'll
o'clock
plan.
in the
I'm going to do
morning.
something extra to offset this cup.
I love you say that. We all have our sustainability guilty pleasures.
Right.
We all do. None of us are perfect, right?
Right.
Mine is long showers. I love long showers.
I
You
get
have
that.
an on-demand hot water heater? That
No, I do not, but I should. I live in a condo building, so it's a little better. But this idea of sustainability being frugal and
Yeah.
non-luxurious, it doesn't have to be that way. I
Mhm.
kind of think of, let's take our sustainability guilty pleasures
Yeah,
and let's make it our goal to make them not guilty pleasures,
right. But pleasures.
Right.
pleasures.
Right.
Like if you think about a hot shower and sustainability,
There you go.
you want an infinite supply of water that is infinitely cycling the heat that's used, so it becomes a cycle.
Yep.
And never ending, which is kind of the ultimate in luxury.
Yeah.
And you know what? We already have that. You know where it is?
Hot
On
springs?
spaceships,
Spaceships.
right?
Oh.
They shower, they recycle the water, they use the same heat, right? So it's there.
Let's do things brilliantly and wonderfully.
There's a group that I'm associated with called Spaceship Earth. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
actually every conversation they have about sustainability, about the world, is to recognize that it is the galaxy's largest spaceship with limited resources that have to be maintained as if we were
Yeah.
on a starship
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And their tagline is, we're all crew.
Yeah.
Which every time I say that out loud, it gives me a little shiver. We're all crew in
Yeah.
this spaceship and have to pay attention. And like you said, it can be a brilliantly wonderful experience if we're thinking about how to do it brilliantly and wonderfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been talking to my students. One of the things, well, and to sustainability groups that I'm in there's one that I'm in that's like we're trying to refine our voice, right? And I say, this is a time to innovate. We are not looking down the barrel of doom and gloom. This is nothing but opportunity. We just have to reposition our view. I think it's actually a really exciting time that's happening right now.
Sometimes I get really overwhelmed about the problems and the challenges that we face.
Yes.
This is the challenge of our lifetime. And
Yeah.
I have to sometimes refocus, ground myself, and realize that we need to do just one thing better tomorrow. We have to, because we need to keep our eye on perfection.
Yeah.
Realize we're not going to get there tomorrow, and we might not get it right tomorrow either, but we need to take one step forward because we are out of time.
Yeah.
We really need to start the journey.
I was having that conversation. I know it sounds silly, but on Twitter today, somebody had posted about all of the, I know Bill McKibben wrote an article in, I think it was in New Yorker, or maybe it was in the New York Times. I think it was in the New York Times. He submitted something about how progressives need to get on board with this building boom that has to take place for sustainability. And the response from very many people is, you know what, we can't build our way out of this, which is absolutely true. We can't build our way out of this. However, my perspective is if we don't start doing the stuff we know how to do, we won't discover the stuff we don't yet know how to do. And saying no to the building boom, the IRA funding, saying no to all of that right now is actually going to disenfranchise more people. And what we need is get more people on board faster. So we're going to take some missteps. We're going to do some things that aren't right. We are going to probably build a little too much over the next 5 years. I'll give it 5 years, but opening that opportunity to discovery is going to leapfrog us into what we need to know. And that's what keeps me going, is feeling that as we're doing this work.
Partnerships are key.
And I think what's also going to really propel that is partnerships, right?
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, because again, we can't do this alone. We have to work together. And, we work for competing architecture firms.
Right. I'm
but
with Paige. He's with Gensler.
Gensler, right?
We actually get along.
We get
That's
along.
cool.
We're friendly.
Right.
Exactly.
We've only known each other a week. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
But
Great things are ahead. But we have to work together.
Yeah.
And I do think that the sustainability nerds, I like to call us, that we've always been, are kind of great champions for that.
Yeah.
And bringing these really critical issues to light and bringing people along with us.
Yeah.
In these partnerships.
And one of the partnerships is, of course, with education, Lauren. So every time you mention your class and your students, it's a reminder to me that maybe one of the things more firms need to explore is not just how to support emerging professionals, but how to bring that education back into the architecture and engineering curricula. Because
we need it.
AIA.
We need the skill.
Yeah, we
need the technical skills of sustainability at every level.
Like the big framework of what it is, and then the freedom to explore and innovate with that, like you said, the aspirational goal, the goal that we know we can't achieve right now, has to be in our view all the time, and then we have to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to give
students,
props to Onondaga Community College, because in what was perceived as a really negative thing, which was getting rid of their architectural technology and their interior design department, they allowed their faculty to create architectural design studies, which basically focuses on the first two, as well as construction management. And when we rewrote that curriculum, sustainability is literally an infused it's an infused topic throughout the entire curriculum. Like, it's supposed to be introduced and studied every single day in every single class in some capacity. And then our assessments start to demonstrate that. So we started dabbling with projects and kind of testing things out this year before the programs officially launch in the fall. But I'm so excited because, in just those kind of tests that I did this past fall and spring, now I know exactly where I want the curriculum to go that I teach. And now I can, bolster that further. And I'm sitting down to start doing my planning, and I'm going to look at bringing in guest speakers who can fill in gaps better than I can on areas where I feel like maybe I'm weak. So I'm finding this to be like, just, it's super exciting. And I totally agree. We have to give our students the good information and good critical thinking skills so that they're thinking about this well before they even get into the professional environment.
Sustainability, infuse it.
Yeah, and actually to follow up on that, what it made me think about is how sustainability can sometimes mistakenly be treated as a separate curriculum track or a separate set of discussions. And I think that still happens in a lot of architecture and engineering firms. There are people who are the sustainability people. That happened when I worked for state government. I was director of sustainability, and there were always people assigned to do the sustainability stuff. And it was hard to integrate that work into everything.
Right.
And not to throw you under the bus, but have you struggled with integrating throughout the whole firm? Are there, what?
So
Let me rephrase that. What have you found successful in creating?
Yes, good question.
Yeah. So I have a bit of a unique take on this. I see that there is still a big gap in technical expertise on sustainability. I think it's missing as an industry. When I walk people through what it takes to compare one product to another product for embodied carbon, people's jaws drop. And they say to me, you mean this has to be done for every product on a project? Yeah. If we really are going to care about embodied carbon and reducing our impacts, yes, it does. Now, some product categories are easier than others to compare. But, one product took me 8 hours to do.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
But still, it's a process. And so at this stage of the game, I caution people in the profession saying, it's everybody's job, because when it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job.
That's
right?
a fair point.
But I want us to get to the point where it is everybody's job.
First, a few that need to do it, and then everyone.
I kind of relate this to what I understand happened when ADA came about.
Oh, yes.
Right? Firms hired ADA consultants, ADA specialists who knew this type of design in and out.
So this is American with Disabilities Act, and it's all about access into buildings that isn't at a second-class citizen approach, like a ramp in the back, or actually it started with ramps in the back, and then it got better over time.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Door widths and things like that.
And now it's everybody's job, and everybody in the profession knows how to do it. And it is truly integrated in everything we do. So my goal, I would love for us to get there where it is everybody's job, but we still need to build that technical expertise that it takes to do these assessments, to understand what we're looking at, to be able to really make an impact.
Do you think we're integrated at the broad thinking levels, or do you think we still have work to do in that realm as well? Like,
Yeah, I think we still have a lot of work to do, right? I see a lot of disconnects between design firms and our GC partners and our clients and owners. They all have different levers that they're interested in pulling. I think that we were talking about ESG. I think that ESG is going to have a big role in that.
Yeah,
I think that we're going to be looking at, when we're talking about buildings, we're going to be looking at a VE column for dollars, and then we're going to be looking at a VE column for carbon, because there's going to be a dollar amount attached to carbon. And I think we're going to be looking at that.
There is a dollar amount attached to carbon in New York City already.
Yes.
For operational carbon under local law 97, I think it's $268 a ton. And that once that's levied on a large size building or a portfolio of buildings, that can be millions of dollars in a year if that owner isn't meeting their commitments to carbon reduction. So that's a nice starting point. And New York State set a level 2 or 3 years ago for budget purposes of $168 a ton, just to say, hey, if we know that this project is we could pick this thing that costs more that reduces carbon, and this thing that costs less that amplifies carbon, we can use that metric to inform the discussion for budgeting purposes. It's not a detailed number at all, but it's a starting point.
Great. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's, sorry, one last thought. I think it's also within a firm, it's really important to understand that the design impacts carbon. For example, we often just eliminate the structural engineer from discussions of operational carbon, but we have a friend who's a structural engineer who's really clear about the impact of thermal bridging and really clear about air barriers and energy code. And his understanding of how those systems work together is not like, I haven't seen it come up in most firms that I've worked in. The structural engineer kind of makes the building stand up, and it has nothing to do with energy, which is not a good thought process.
Yeah.
So,
We all need to be part of the conversation.
and
Every
landscape
discipline.
architecture.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Lauren,
Yeah.
you were going to say something. I cut you off.
No, I was just like nodding my head in agreement. I was going with it.
We're already at our wrap up.
It's been
Sure.
wonderful to meet and hear about Gensler, talk about some of the bigger issues. We're meeting here on a carbon impact program. Is that the right carbon impact program?
Yeah. Mhm.
And for the next 2 days, and it's hosted by Material Bank. And I think that's kind of cool as well. So there are people from
Yes.
6 or 8 different firms meeting to talk about these things, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And this was just an opportunity to pitch in, which was great. One of our
Thank you.
questions is, who's your hero and who has inspired you, or who should we look to inspire us?
Oh, goodness. Putting me on the spot. I don't know. I don't know. I like to think, I don't know. I don't like to think that one person has too much power. You know, I kind of think of, you know, why aren't the three of us the heroes for now, right?
Ooh, I like that. All
Those are
right.
my heroes. Because you're encouraging this conversation around sustainability, and it's small conversations like this that
Yeah.
make a difference, right? It's his personal stories and his personal connections that are going to make a difference. So right now, you two are my heroes for facilitating these conversations. So thank you.
And it's reciprocated because you jumped into this with no warning and with no prep, and we're in a lobby.
What should we be focusing on, Ben?
If you had the opportunity to put the world collectively on pause and they could only focus on one issue, what issue would you have the entire world focus on?
I think that I would have the entire world focus on social equity, because so many of the problems that we're in right now are wrapped up in that, and
Yeah.
it's systemic. And I think if we focused on that, a lot of these other issues that we're dealing with would also bubble up and be addressed by that.
It really comes down to like caring for each other and
Yeah.
making the work that I touch can be done in a way to make someone else's job or life a little better.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks for joining us for Subject to Change. Take care.
Yes, it was amazing to meet you. Thank you so much for doing this on a
Yes, thank
it
you
a
for
large-
having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, and we need to connect not on screen sometime, or not
Yes.
recording, so we can get to
Yes.
know each other a little better. I'd love to
I
keep the
would love
connection.
that. All right,
Yeah.
that sounds great.